Hi everyone, I'm Nadia, and in today's video, my mom is making a gorgeous set of rose quartz resin tray with matching resin coasters. I do have to say that she really nailed this technique and the final product looks amazing, so if you're interested in learning how, keep watching. After she mixes her part A and part B resin, she separates it into smaller cups to add the pigments. For a rose quartz effect, you'll need to use a medium or a high viscosity resin so that there's not as much movement when you're pouring the pigmented resin. The first pigment she's going to be using is white casting craft, and she makes sure to shake the bottle well before she adds a few drops into her cup of resin. And she adds just a drop of Pinata alcohol ink in the shade Magenta. In her second cup of resin, she'll be adding white casting craft once more, as well as this white shade of mica powder. In that same cup, she's going to be adding just resin's pigment paste in the shade Fuchsia. She mixes the pigment in the container before taking a very small amount onto her wooden stick and mixing it into her cup of resin. She decided to add a few more drops of the casting craft to lighten it up a little bit. As usual, I'll have affiliate links in the description, so if you're interested in purchasing any of these products that you see in this video, make sure to check that out. In a fourth cup, she's pouring some of the light pink pigmented resin, and after pours some of the white pigmented resin into it as well. Then she pours clear resin into that same cup where the white pigmented resin was, and is going to be adding a few drops of casting craft so that she has more white pigmented resin. She starts off by pouring clear resin into the upper corner of the mold. This is where she'll be placing her real rose quartz. Now she takes a larger cup and she's going to be pouring in all of the different pigmented resins to achieve a blend of all of the colors. She's not mixing all of the colors together because when she pours into the mold, she wants the different colors to be slightly visible and not for them to all blend into one. She takes that same cup and starts to pour it into the mold diagonally. And she's keeping that corner clear for her crystals. She uses a torch gun to pop any air bubbles, and be very careful to move your torch gun very quickly so that you don't burn your resin or your silicone molds. Now she's using a wooden stick to help push the resin into the crevices of the mold. And she repeats the same process to pour into the coaster molds. Now with the help of the wooden stick and using the white pigmented resin, she's adding lines into the molds. She takes her cup with the fuchsia pigmented resin and starts to add streaks into the tray mold. Here she takes the light pink pigmented resin and pours it into small areas. And now switches to the white pigmented resin. And she uses the same technique in the resin coaster molds, rotating between the different shades of resin. She carefully adds in her handles into the tray mold. Once they're in the mold, she can easily adjust them so that they're more aligned. Now she's ready to start placing in her rose quartz crystals. She starts by adding her larger crystals. Then she takes her smaller crystals and places them around the larger ones. And she uses a wooden stick to adjust their placement and push them closer to the larger crystals. She continues to add in crystals until she's happy with how it looks. And makes sure that the larger crystals will stay in place. She continues to add more streaks and works on some final touches. And she came back the next day to a surprise. It appears that while it was curing, the alcohol ink that was mixed into the pigments rose to the top. Different types of pigments have different consistencies and weight. Some pigments are more heavy, and especially if you add too much, will sink to the bottom, whereas alcohol ink is fairly light and tends to rise to the top. A similar thing happens to me in my resin serving board tutorial video, where I used some purple alcohol ink in a blue pigment, and while I was working with it, it was visibly blue, but when I came back the next day, it was completely purple. So alcohol inks can be a little tricky to work with. Hopefully you guys can learn from our mistakes. But something like this is easily savable. She's just going to be mixing in her pigments once more and doing another layer to tone down that hot pink. To achieve the best rose quartz effect, it's a good idea to do this in a few layers so that you can achieve beautiful depth. This time she'll be pouring the resin in patches, and she starts by using the transparent white pigmented resin to pour over those patches where it's bright pink. And she fills in the space with clear resin. She adds subtle streaks of the pink pigmented resin. She goes over the tray and the coasters with the heat gun, which helps to slightly blend the colors and can also pop air bubbles. She adds a little bit of clear resin before she moves on to use the different shades of pigmented resin to create the streaks. She uses the heat gun once more and finishes up before coming back to it again the next day. Here's when her phone ran out of storage and stopped recording, but as you can tell, she added some more rose quartz into the bottom corner of the tray. Now she's going to be doing a third layer. She mixed in all of her pigments and only added a very small amount of the Cast & Craft white, which then causes it to be more transparent. And she pours the transparent white into the coaster molds and the tray. She adds clear resin as well and then starts to add streaks with the white pigmented resin. And here's the clip of my mom demolding the coasters and tray. She added a top coat and a gold trim, and here's the final product. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. Follow me on my Instagram, Summer Girl Designs, and my mom's Instagram, Wild Heart Resin Art.